When you make love, you're using up energy, and afterwards you feel happy and don't give a damn for anything. They can't bear you to feel like that. They want you to be bursting with energy all the time. All this marching up and down and cheering and waving flags is simply sex gone south. If you're happy inside yourself, why should you get excited about Big Brother and the 3 year plans and the 2 minutes hate and all the rest of the bloody rot? That was how Julia, one of the main characters in George Orwell's 1948 book, 1984, uh, as she was talking to the main protagonist, Winston Smith, uh, after they had just had relations, uh, in describing how the party, Big Brother, uh, Ingsoc, Oceana, that group that they're in, tries to regulate sexual intimacy and connection uh, and all that sort of stuff uh, in this new world of 1984. So that way they can manipulate how people function. Again, obviously, sex is a normal bodily function, but but it's also uncontrollable. It's also and it's a private matter, and all these things that add a variable to it that the party does not approve of, party cannot control. And I find this very interesting. I love reading 1984. I've read it now. It's probably sixth or seventh time I've read it last 10 years. Uh, every time I read it, I find something new in it. Again, I've said before on this channel, I'll say it again. That's the hallmark of a great piece of literature. And by literature, that could mean a TV show too, or a movie, or a song, or whatever. But you go back and find something new every time you encounter it. And that's how I felt when I reread George Orwell's 1984 in preparation for this video for alliterations, this new alliterations video. So thank you all again for stopping by. And today I wanted to talk about there's some really interesting things with it. Again, I don't get into politics really in this channel. But there are some really fun things I wanted to talk about. I guess not fun. I shouldn't say fun. In the way I see the world. Again, I'm not espousing my political beliefs, nor am I endorsing any political beliefs, nor am I saying you shouldn't have yours. But I find some of this stuff very interesting. I've started with that passage in particular because I find that connection very interesting with today's political world. Whether it's appropriate or not, I think it's fair to say that those people on the left tend to be more liberal with sex, right? They're not sticklers for, heteronormative sexual relations or anything like that. They tend to be more free thinking when it comes to that sort of behavior. Kind of what a lot of people might call hippie type stuff. Sharing of everybody and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the right and people on the right. I think now, especially in the last, I think we've seen in the last year or so, but over the last 10 years even, but particularly this latest campaign from President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance, they're much more focused, maybe not focused, that isn't the right word, quite the right word, but they're much more interested in further policing sexual activity, whether that means uh, contraceptives, abortion, or things like that. And again, these are hot button topics, and I'm not getting into them here. I'm I'm drawing parallels between today's world and a piece of literature that's about 75 years old, uh, because it's interesting and because there are parallels to be drawn to it. But then they're more interested in policing, like I say, how people have sex, with whom they have sexual relations, that sort of thing. Uh, and I find that a very interesting idea, and that brings me to another passage that I personally enjoyed reading. Find a good spot. Okay, so this is where O'Brien, a character who interrogates Winston and Julia, and he's a party member. O'Brien, all three of these people are party members, but O'Brien is the party. He is asking Winston, "Are you prepared to give your lives? Are you prepared to commit murder? Are you to commit acts of sabotage which may cause the death of hundreds of innocent people? To betray your country to foreign powers? Are you prepared to cheat, to forge, to blackmail, to corrupt the minds of children, to distribute habit-forming drugs, to encourage prostitution, to disseminate venereal diseases, to do anything which is likely to cause demoralization and weaken the power of the party?" And Winston answers yes. If, and this is O'Brien talking again, if, for example, it would somehow serve our interests to throw sulfuric acid in a child's face, are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to lose your identity and to live out the rest of your life as a waiter or a dock worker? Are you prepared to commit suicide if and when we order you to do so? Are you prepared, the two of you, to separate and never see one another again? It's between O'Brien's asking Julia and Winston. They answer yes to all those questions except for the final one. Uh, and I keep on thinking about that in terms, again, of today's political world. And I see so many connections between Big Brother and modern politics. That's not even funny. For a long while, I thought Aldous Huxley's Brave New World was going to be the way our society fell. We were entertained to death, and we're so excited by the idea of a foreigner, of a savage, quote unquote, and all that sort of stuff. But in reality, that's not the case at all. We, well, it is the case, but we've allowed ourselves to be entertained to death, essentially. That we've let 1984 become reality. That we've let the lies that war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength become truisms in our modern political world. And this is true of both the extreme right and the extreme left. And so it's a really interesting, it's a really interesting thing to see how those at the center can fight back against those in power and those who will be in power, fight back against how they interpret the world and focus on us being so caught up in destroying ourselves, in destroying our communities, our states, our nation, our relationships, ourselves. At some point else in this book, O'Brien asks Winston, are you prepared to change yourself for the party? And Winston, of course, has to answer yes. And by answering yes, he has changed himself. And he has lost his own sense of being Winston Smith. He's no longer an everyman, he's a party man. And that's a very depressing moment in this book, full of very depressing moments. And that's something that I've seen so many people do, and I continue to see it, and I think we will forever. I think we will. I think we will for a long time to come. See people just give up on themselves in the name of the party. So that's not a pleasant view of the world. Maybe it's not even a great review of 1984, but it's not meant to be exactly either. Again, this channel is meant to draw connections from great pieces of literature of the past to today's world, how we can fight back. And I guess ultimately how we can fight back is how we can apply the lessons to our lives is to not be like Winston. Read this book and be like Winston in the first 100 pages or so. You can be that Winston and that Julia. And then resist the urge to become the Winston of the last half of the book. Thank you all again for stopping by Alliterations. Next month, we'll find something new to talk about, maybe something more pleasant. I will, in the next few months, be reviewing Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I got a couple other books on my shelf that I want to review as well. So thank you again, and like and subscribe and share, and see y'all next time.